Example 1 for lesson 78, solve y squared plus 1/4 equals y over 6. The recommendation for an equation involving fractions is to get rid of the fractions. The requirement for getting rid of fractions is simply there has to be an equal sign. If you have a problem that has an equal sign in it, you are allowed to get rid of fractions. And getting rid of fractions is simply a matter of finding the least common denominator of all the denominators. It doesn't even have to be the least common denominator. It could be a common denominator. For example, 600 divides by all those numbers. If I multiply everything by 600, I'll get an equation that has the right answer. All right? 600 is a lot bigger than the least common denominator of 12, though, right? So if I take this times 12, 12 times 1/2 y is 6y. 12 times 1/4 is 3. 12 times y over 6 is y times 2, so 2y.
Would it be 12 divided by 6?
12 divided by 6, 2 times y is 2y, yeah. However you want to do it. I usually divide first and multiply the result times the top. I think that's the easiest way to do it. But again, multiplication by a common denominator works. If I continue working this out then, if I want to get y equals, I'm going to move the 6y over here first. That gets me 3 is equal to negative 4y. Divide both sides by negative 4. And just like that, I get y is equal to negative 3/4, the right answer. Now, just for the sake of argument, suppose I multiply this by 6,000. Because I'm a glutton for punishment. All right? 6,000 divides by 2, by 4, and by 6, evenly. All right? So, 6,000 divided by 2 is 3,000 times y. 6,000 divided by 4 is 1,500. 6,000 divided by 6 is 1,000 times y is 1,000y. Okay, this equation obviously is not the same as that equation, right?
You get the same answer.
Well, you should get the same answer based on the principles at work. So if I take this 3,000y over here and subtract, you get 1,500 is equal to negative 2,000y. Divide by negative 2,000. Reduce, zeros cancel. 15 and 20 both divide by 5. Same result. Don't get hung up on the least common denominator part of it. A common denominator will work. The only advantage of least common denominator, the numbers are a heck of a lot smaller. So if you can figure out a least common denominator, you're going to get the easiest equation possible. But even this is easier than having to work with the fractions in the context of that problem. So just think about that when you're doing this. A least common denominator will be sufficient. Any common denominator will be sufficient. So either way, you get an equation that's easier to solve. Go through the regular technique to solve it once you've fixed it from fraction form to integer.